This is Pat. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Crafty Pat. Talk about all the things I'm doing that are related to crafts, or at least most of them. Today's a FlossTube episode, FlossTube number 5 for me. If you're not familiar with FlossTube, it is YouTube videos about cross stitch mainly. People do throw in other fiber-related arts. And I've been cross stitching a lot lately, after having cross-stitched a lot in the 80s and 90s, and then kind of off and on since then. I did a lot of quilting in the 90s and early 2000s, and I still do some quilting. So today I have some fully finished objects and some works in progress. I don't have a lot of WIPs because that's just not how I work. That's just, my brain can't handle it. And then I have some upcoming plans, which if you've seen my other videos, you will be surprised to know that I have plans to do a pattern from the 21st century. But I don't do just vintage patterns from the 80s and 90s, but I do a lot of them. So to start with, let's talk about fully finished objects. So I wear t-shirts a lot. You will see that's normally what I have on. And I had a t-shirt I had bought not within the last year, and it ended up with a couple of small holes right here, and I have no idea why. I don't pin a name tag there. I don't put things on my shirt, but there were 2 noticeable holes right above the emblem on the shirt, Smoky Mountains, North Carolina. And so I cross-stitched over them. Look, I'm so happy with how this turned out. It's mushrooms and leaves. It may not look completely straight, but that's okay. I got the pattern from this book from the 90s of Donna Cooler's 555 Fabulous Cross-Stitch Patterns. And it's just all these little motifs. And let me show you some of the inside of the book. So there's one chapter on flora and fauna, and she shows like this sampler. But she doesn't give you the layout for the sampler. Okay, you've got the patterns for all of these, but she doesn't give you the exact layout for that. So I looked through here, and there's the little mushrooms on the bottom. That's what I found. And I thought, ooh, that looks nice. That goes with the theme of mountains and outdoors. And pulled the call for DMC. And I was like, that's great. It covers up the holes. I did put a small piece of fabric on the back, which I could probably trim down. And so that where the holes were about the size of a 14 count X. I used waste canvas, the type that you pull the strings out when you get through. I did use a hoop. You do want to be careful with, stretchy t-shirt material that you don't stretch it out too far when you're stitching it. You could probably stitch it in hand as well. Just, again, keep an eye on your tension of the shirt and the stitching. Really pleased with it. So that's a start, finish, and fully finish object all in a very short period of time. And now I feel like I can wear my shirt again out in public without people going, oh, you have a hole in your shirt. So that's fully finished object number 1. Put this over here. The next 2, this is one I had finished the cross stitch 2 or 3 years ago, but I finally put it in a frame. Strong women. Maybe we be them, know them, raise them. And then one that I started a week ago, it was quick and easy, and this is for a friend, Resist. Sorry about the glare. Both of these came from this book, Feminist Cross Stitch, from 2018 or 19. Stephanie Rohr. Sorry if I mispronounced the last name. 40 Bold and Fierce Patterns. You can kind of see the theme here. So it's from 2019. And it has some really good patterns in it. Some of it's not safe for work. Yes, it's political. there was a big stir around 2021, I think, that Michael's craft stores put this in their stores, and then either some employees or customers pointed out there's, I think, 3 patterns with a 4-letter word that people don't like, and Michael's ordered their stores to remove the books from the shelves and destroy them. And word got out on social media. It was a big hoopla about why did they destroy them? Why didn't they just say these are only available? Because I think they still would offer them on their website, but they didn't want them in the store, which I can understand. Excuse me, my nose is itching. I did this pattern, which I could have taken it off the wall and shown you, Rosie the Riveter. The patterns are in full color. I mean, you can see the chart there without seeing the pattern. Some of them, the little icons are small. And the ones that are in full color can be a challenge to read, especially Rosie the Riveter. There are so many different shades of pink in her face and arm, and so many different shades of blue in this shirt. I struggled reading it. I even tried to make a copy and enlarge it, but the shades of blue are so close that finally I just got where, especially on the shirt, I was just going with it, whatever I thought it should be. That's the only complaint I have about the book. It has some others in here that I think I may do. But again, you know, some of them I have no interest in. But that, like I said, the theme is, you know, feminism. So if that's not your cup of tea, that's understandable. I think she has on a new book too. I saw something. I need to do a little bit more research. So those are my fully finished objects. I'm quite proud that I have 3. Next, my works in progress. This is an oldie that I started many years ago. Magazine is March 1991. For the Love of Cross Stitch, Leisure Arts publication. This blanket, this Afghan, I started stitching it, and I really did get quite far in it, but then I got a little off track and put it aside, and this is it. This is what I have done. So, see if I can hold the magazine and my piece up at the same time. You can see I have a lot of it done. I don't know if it's half of it. But this material is called Anne cloth, A-N-N-E cloth. And I think it's still available. And you can see it has these little, and a lot of the patterns for it, you stitch something in the square, which probably wouldn't be too hard. It's got some nylon in it, some polyester, so some people might kind of get the ick from touching it and handling it. This fringe, it doesn't come with the fringe. I apparently did take the time to make all this fringe all around this thing, because that's part of the instructions. I don't remember it, but here's the problem. Is you see these, oh, sorry, kind of blows it out. Maybe I can do it better. Do you see these lines where there's this texture? So it's like if we're going this way, the weft is going over 3 or 4 warp threads at a time to make this overall texture. You can see it better in here, to make this texture. And that's really hard to stitch on because the threads they get distorted. And I think I was off count somewhere, and I just put it in a box. But I recently pulled it out. So you can see I've got 2 of the roses. Yeah, the 2 big roses. I've got the 2 big flowers. But I still have, and I have a lot of this, but I still have a lot of this to do, these leaves and stuff. So I've been working on it. It takes 6 strands of floss over 2. It's not something I put in a hoop. So hold it like this to stitch it, and I do the sewing type stitch when I can, but to stitch it, yeah, I'm having to hold it in my hand, all bundled up, and that starts to hurt my thumb. I had wrist surgery a few months ago because I dislocated my wrist like an idiot, and the thumb joint still hurts. The thumb joint didn't get damaged, but from the surgery and being in a brace for a number of weeks, that thumb and muscles and whatever. Anyway, my thumb joint is still a little tender at times, and gripping things still causes a little problem. So what I've been trying to do is tell myself, and you see I have even some of the back stitching done. And it really, it looks nice. So what I've been trying to tell myself to do is do one length of thread a day. If I feel like doing 2, I do 2. But just trying to not overdo it with my hand and not overdo it with the stress of sewing on this slippery, moving material. Okay, there, I think you can see the strands better. That is hard to stitch out, and you can see it kind of gets warped and weird and hard to count, and so I'm just trying to take deep breaths and just do it the best I can, so that I can have it finished. Once it's finished, let me see if I can tell you how big of it's a 45 by 58 inch piece of fabric is what it started out as, and then the fringe takes up 5.5 inches on each side. The pattern itself is going to end up, I don't know, 9 by 7 inches. Yeah, 9 by 7. This is 18 count, by the way. 18 count Ivory Anne cloth, ANNE. They also have this, you can do it on a piece of linen, which is pretty. I do like it. I don't know if I'll ever do that. I might. So that's WIP number 1. WIP number 2, I made a lot of progress on. I've been under a lot of stress lately, and life's just been crazy the last few months. It's okay. I mean, everything's going to work out, but there's just been a lot of unusual activity. And so I've been stress stitching and stitching when probably I should be doing other things, but I'm avoiding them, such as housework. My boy, I should have done this differently. This is what he's going to look like. I talked about him in my last FlossTube, and his sister, who is completed but not framed or anything yet. 28 count linen. And he is, I do an I prefer an upper left start. And I don't earn my pieces between videos. I was working on this morning, in fact. 28 count. The boy himself is done in 3/2 and it's all DMC floss. The background, this dark brown, is 2/2. And then some of this is a blended needle 2/2, and then some of it's 1/2, and then some of it is half stitch, 1/2 for a half stitch. You can see a little closer there. I've pretty much got his face finished, except for his eyes and mouth. The eyes and mouth are petite point, so it's over 1. And there were a lot of color changes in his face. I guess I won't say a lot. There were different shades to give him the different facial features, but his eyes and his mouth would be over 1. I do have to use a magnifying glass to see this. I have his ears. There's a few stitches here and there on his ears I need to finish. So I've started on his shirt, and I gridded this fabric up to a certain point, and then I have no patience and start stitching. And And as you can see, I'm starting to get down here where I don't have any gridding, or I don't have the horizontal grid. I'm not sure. And of course, now I'm thinking, should I take the chance of just not gridding anymore or just keep working? I have finished 1, 2, 3. Okay. Where this, about right here is row 50. Okay. So I have finished quite a few. This is 140 across, I think, 138. I have finished a lot. I have been alternating between the brown and his face. When I did the little girl, I was really excited to get to the girl. I worked on the girl a lot and ignored the background. And then at the end, I had to do the background. So I've been working on the back. I've been trying to keep it even, just move down evenly. So I've gotten into his shirt, some gray and white, and kind of evenly move back and forth, back and forth. Not a strict, I have to do a complete row before I go to the next. It's not that, but just kind of go, okay, let's finish this set of 10 rows. Let's finish this set of 10 rows, and so on and so forth. Like I said, except for skipping his eyes and mouth. Probably next, I'm going to go back up here and finish this. Some more of the brown. This is all needs to be filled in. Some of this is not going to be filled in. It is left blank. It's pretty much a full coverage except for a little spot here. I do have to remember that this is 2 strands over 2, and this is 3 strands, because sometimes I start stitching and realize something doesn't feel right, and it's that I've got 3 strands over here or I've got 2 over here. So it makes him kind of stand out. It is dense stitching, as you can see. I do use a hoop. Oops, I got a bit of something pulled over there I need to fix. Some threads pulled. I am enjoying it. A couple months ago, I said I'm not doing this, but then I got a magnifying glass that is like the floor lamp magnifying glass, and that makes such a huge difference. I do get a little tired of him because it's so brown. It's brown, on brown, on brown, with some more brown and some other shades of brown and tan. So this is what I'm working on. This white fabric and bright colors. This is another vintage pattern from around 1990. It's another Cooler Design Studios book. Home is where the heart is. I've mentioned this in the past. This is what it's going to look like. That was my working copy I had there. Part of my working copy. It will be, it's not completely full coverage. Stitch count of 160 by 232. I'm doing it on 18 count white Aida, and it will be approximately 9 by 13 inches. So, and again, I'm trying to like complete an area before I move too far down. Sometimes when I just want to not have to do a lot of counting, I do this border because it's 4 by 4 blocks of each color. I do have to pay attention down here because there starts to be this ribbon in the way, and there's some other things that interfere. You can see I've done some back stitching. And you can see here the houses I haven't back stitched and the ones I have. And that makes a huge difference. Now these are back stitched in black. These are back stitched in different colors depending on the item. And I often see on YouTube and social media, new cross stitchers are afraid of back stitch. And I really wish, if you're afraid of it, please don't be. Please give it a try. Use one thread. It may seem a little slow going, but that's okay. This isn't a race. And a lot of the vintage patterns did have back stitch. And without the back stitch, they look a little flat. And I know some people think the back stitch, they picture it as being, it's like an outline. Like you've outlined the picture like it's in a coloring book. And I guess you could kind of say that about these houses. But see this corn? Each of those little kernels has back stitch around it. I had to go horizontally and vertically. And the corn is kind of a yellow color, of course. And this is backstitched, the tassels and the green. But the corn, it's done, I said, it's a tan color. So it's not black. It's not like you took a Sharpie and outlined it. It really makes a difference in a lot of patterns. And I mean, obviously there are patterns designed without back stitching, but don't be afraid of it. Give it a try. Start with something small. I guess I was never afraid of it because the first things I cross-stitched were small Christmas ornaments that had back stitching on them. So no one told me it was supposed to be hard. The person who taught me the basics of cross-stitch was like, this is easy, you can do it. And if you don't tell me something's going to be hard, I don't know. And I'll do all kinds of crazy things, especially when it comes to crafting, if no one tells me it's hard. So that's where I am. And I've outlined the homemade letters. And I'm enjoying this. I really am. No hurry to get it done. I seem to lately be drawn to these type things with fruits and vegetables and kind of thinking, I could do that in my kitchen. Yes, I have paintings in my kitchen, or in my dining room area. I may move those. I think I'm going to move those to the living room anyway. And probably not frame all the fruits aplenty I want to do, but do wall hangings or something. If I'll frame them myself. Okay. So that's my WIPs. Yeah, that's what I have as WIPs, is those three. I actually do have another one, but I haven't been working on it. Those are pretty much my WIPs. I'm not counting. There's a few projects that were under the bed, and I'll pull those out at a later date. That some are things that need to be finished, and I've been thinking for some time, I'm just going to put them in a stitch sampler book. I know I'm not the only one to come up with this idea, that other cross stitchers do it. People who do slow stitching often make sampler books. And so there's little pieces that I've done just because it was a kit I got at a thrift store, or some little piece I wanted to do, but I don't want all these little things hanging all over my house. I enjoyed the process. Now I need to do something with it. So I'm probably I may use some of them. I guess I could make like project bags with some of them. If they get a little worn, it's no big deal. I enjoyed the process. So next up are my plans. As I mentioned, I have decided to join the 21st century. I know it's 2025 and we've been here for but I kept hearing people talk about owl forest embroidery, OWL forest embroidery. So I went on their website and I found a couple of patterns. I was like, I might spend the money on that. But then I realized they have some wonderful free patterns. And I thought, well, let's download a smaller free pattern, see if I like their charting, see what I think of working on it before I invest in a larger pattern. So I found this one. It's called Garden Stomping. It's little hedgehogs. I previously had a dog who had a hedgehog toy, and that was his favorite toy in the whole world. I lost him about 2 years ago, but I still have, a place in my heart for hedgehogs in honor of him. But look at this. Is this not cute? It doesn't take a lot of colors. Now it looks variegated because they used their variegated thread, the Owl Forest threads. They have the DMC conversion as well. It's 6 colors. Now this part of this one, that looks fuzzy in this picture, but that's not what the pattern shows. The pattern shows it looking just like the back of this hedgehog. So, I think I'm going to do this. It is 100 by 99 stitches. On 14 or 28 over 2, it ends up about 7 inches in diameter. Well, I was then looking through my my fabric I have, and I have pieces of fabric from years ago when I stitched, and I don't know why I bought them and never used them. And I found this green. It's a pretty good sized piece. It's 13 by 15, which is more than enough for this pattern. It's called Mint. It's an 18 count. So I'm thinking I may do him on the, or them, do them on the Mint over on 18 over 1. It's pretty good representation of the color. I said this is 13 by 15. So I may do that. I don't have a local needlework shop. I do have a local yarn shop that carries some cross-stitch supplies, but mainly they carry DMC, and they have some of the DMC specialty threads, and they have sulky. They don't have a lot of cloth. They just have some basic DMC cloth. But this leads me to another topic. I have family in Western North Carolina, and they live near Annabella's cross-stitch quilt paper craft store in Waynesville, North Carolina. I went in there about a year ago. I didn't know that Annabella's was so well known. I didn't know they had an online presence for a number of years and put on retreats and had their own patterns. I went in there actually looking for quilting fabric last year, and I was really impressed. Their store is beautiful. You do need to be able to go up and down stairs, I think. I didn't see an elevator. So I'm not sure how that works if you can't go up and down their stairs. I'm not sure. I didn't notice, but I was aware there were stairs, because I have some family members who can't do stairs, so it's made me like super aware of that. When I go someplace, oh well, if we are there, you'll need to do this. But it's a beautiful building. Waynesville is a beautiful town. If you're anywhere near, Waynesville is between Asheville, North Carolina, and Cherokee, North Carolina. If you're in Cherokee or Asheville, it's worth the 30-minute drive over to Waynesville to go to Annabelle's. There's great local restaurants. All of Western North Carolina is beautiful to me. I didn't grow up there, but I have a couple of family members who now live there. We did grow up going camping when I was a kid. It's a beautiful area, and the local restaurants are great. The locals complain about not having chain restaurants, and I live near a major city, and I'm like, oh, I wish there was something beside a chain restaurant. So I love going up there. If you're going and you want some recommendations of where to eat or what to see, drop me a comment. Let me know. I can. My relatives have lived up there in Western North Carolina for, one's been there almost 20 years and the other one's been there 13 years. So, and I go up every 3 or 4 months. So I'm going to look at if there's some works I want, so I can stop at Annabelle's and get fabric directly from them to help support them. But I did find, and there's something else I want about Annabelle's. I know they carry Weeks Dyeworks floss. I don't remember. I just remember they had some specialty floss, but I wasn't really aware of what they were at the time. I had no use for them. I do want to try some of them. I am a DMC gal, pretty much through and through, but I thought, I think I do want to try them. And that's what my local yarn shop that has sulky, I want to buy a spool of sulky and thrift shop. And so I found I do have a few little scraps. This is 28 count. It's from where I did that little girl called Sunday Best. And this, I don't know how big this is, but, and it's called Amber Linen. I found I have this piece, 5 by 17 of Belfast white linen, 32 count. And yeah, you can see the price, $1.62. It's been a few years. As they say, it's been a minute. I could do like a bell pull. So what I'm kind of thinking is with these two is using them as little samplers. Just try out different threads. So I'm thinking I might buy some red in whatever different floss Annabelle's carries, and some sulky from my local yarn shop and do just some motifs, like Quaker style motifs or geometric designs, just all in one color maybe on this Belfast linen, to see, do I want to do a red sample, but also to see how each thread works on this fabric and how I like working with that thread. Because I hear some people say they don't like working with weeks, some people like the silk, some people don't, some people use thread conditioner. But this would give me a good chance to experiment without spending a fortune, without going out and buying a quarter yard of linen and all the thread to do a big, because I'm kind of intrigued by the alphabet samplers that are in red. But I don't want to make, that's a big investment for something that it's like, I may not like it. So these are going to be samplers, truly samplers for me, experiment pieces. And if I like them when they're finished, this can be on a journal, or a project bag, or to make, a little bell pull or something. I also found I have this piece of 32 count. It's 10 by 11 3/4. Paid $1.26 for it. Yeah, this is 32 count. I've never stitched on a higher count than 28 count. I've never stitched on a higher count than this. So I want to stitch on some of this over 1 and some of it over 2. And like I said, with different threads. And this one may also be a sampler. I don't know. It's not very big, but it would make a nice small. And then I found this other piece that I remember buying this. I don't remember what I bought it for. I was going to do something for my son's room. My son is now almost 34, and if I remember correctly, this was going to be something that was for a kid that, I keep thinking balloons, and I haven't run across a balloon pattern in my stuff. Who knows? I don't know. It's like 18 by 18. It appears to be, it has no label. It appears to be 28 count. I think it's an even weave. I think it's Jobeline. I don't think it's linen. I don't know. I don't know if you can look at that on the camera and go, oh yeah, I know what that is. It's kind of a blue, kind of a gray blue. It's showing up as a brighter blue on the camera than it actually is. I don't know. There, I think you can see there. You can see it's more of a gray blue. So I don't know what I'll do with it, but I have it in my stuff. I also have a lot of Ada. Some of it I've picked up at thrift stores in the last few years. 14 count, 18 count. I don't think I have any 16 count. And I have waist canvas. I have some small pieces of Ada that are different. That's red or green. That's what this was done on. Red. That was, Christmas red. I have some that's a Christmas green. I think that's the only colors I have. I do have a piece of black Ada I picked up in a Facebook market box I got a few months ago. And I have some brown Ada. The way I don't want to go out and buy fabric just to buy fabric. I was into that when I was a quilter, and I want to not do that anymore. Be a little bit more frugal. And with cross stitch, I very seldom bought fabric just to buy fabric. I usually had something in mind. At least I had something in mind for this at one point. I don't know what. Now these small pieces, I may have not had anything in mind, or I may have been going to do some fancy Christmas ornaments on them. And I don't think these were off cuts. No, they couldn't have been because it has the size on it. They weren't my offcuts. I picked them up in a store. But I don't want to go buy a lot of fabric without something in mind for it. Because I just don't want to store it. I'm trying to declutter. I'm trying to get rid of things I don't work on, not just stitching, but there's other crafts that I've come to the realization I don't enjoy. I don't do them enough. Right now I'm in the middle of getting rid of, for years I have collected things to do paper crafts, scrapbooking, junk journals. I work on it for a few days and then I don't ever finish anything. So it's time to let all that go. I'm destashing it on eBay, Etsy, Facebook Marketplace. Some of it I'm just giving away on the Buy Nothing group on Facebook. That I'm not doing it. Get rid of it. I want to have more space, and also it's just made me feel mentally. Oh, sorry, shaking the table. It makes me feel emotionally and mentally lighter, so I can really enjoy the things I do have. For this, talking about doing a sampler, I have this book, the Sampler Motif book, which is from the 90s, and it's by Brenda Keyes. So some of you may still be familiar with her. I know she still does patterns. Look at this. Isn't that beautiful? Oh my gosh. It is just beautiful. There's a couple others in here. This is the Sampler Motif is published by Reader's Digest in 1995. There's lots of lettering in here. There's one that's cute. So I may do some of that on one of these small motif samplers on this piece of 32 count that's 10 by 11 inches. Yeah, I may have to remove a border from it or some of the. I'm not much on the words in there. I'm not much on putting my name and date on them. But then she has things like little things like these birds. Is that not cute? This one's pretty. This flora and fauna. She did it as a box top. Look at that. That one only needs a piece of, she used 36 count, 10 and a half by 12 and a half inch. So there are some beautiful things in here that I'm thinking I want to do. This one, rounds. I would probably, like I said, leave my initials and the date. But that one takes an 8 by 10 piece of 32 count Korean Belfast linen. So I've got a piece that size. I could definitely do that on it and still have margin to frame it. So if you see this book, I picked it up at a thrift store. Really recommend keep an eye out at the thrift store. Some of these are timeless. Some of them from the 90s, they're going to have color combinations you may not like today. They're going to have the peach, the mauve, and blue. Some of them, and it may not be your style. I mean, we all have different styles. But to me, this is classic from 95. And a lot of this looks like patterns that are being produced today in reproduction samplers. So I do encourage you to keep your eye out at thrift stores for cross-stitch books, embroidery books. I also have a few. I'm going to do a separate video of a few needlework books I have. They're from the 60s and 70s that give some of the history of needlework, and specifically I'll talk about what it talks about, the history of cross-stitch, and some of the historic samplers those books show. But I'm going to do a separate video for that. So I see I'm at about 40 minutes, so I think that's long enough. If you will, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you're stitching. Let me know if you have any suggestions about doing the garden stomping. And also, as far as trying out different threads and doing my own sampler. Have you done something like that? Or does that seem, if you haven't, would you be interested in doing something like that? I think I have not mentioned before, on Instagram, I am known as Pat Pitter, Patpitter, and that'll be in the description box below. Coming up, I want to do some videos, or at least in future episodes, mention some of the FlossTube people I enjoy watching, and why I enjoy watching them. So I don't know. I'll probably try to do another video in 2 or 3 weeks. I don't have a lot of different WIPs, so you're only going to see the same 3 or 4 over and over. But hopefully I'm making enough progress in it to make it interesting. So again, thank you for watching. Give me a thumbs up. Click the subscribe and notifications button. That's the bell, so you'll know when I post. And I will see you next time. Thanks.